Welcome to another episode of Cooking for Wellness at NYU Langone Health. It is January and officially the month of New Year's resolutions. We know how common it is for people to make momentous changes to their diet and exercise routines this time of year. So we want to share some tips on what to eat. Keep in mind, everybody has different goals and expectations, so we are sticking to eating to support exercise. In this case, that means nutrient-dense, high-protein, and anti-inflammatory foods. This segment specifically is intended for those who are getting back into some sort of exercise regimen. We're making a delicious curried red lentil, kale, and sweet potato soup that is high protein and plant-based as well. This is perfect for a post-workout recovery or to provide energy for a future one. Once we get the soup started and simmering, we have a very special guest to share some tips. Let's get started. So we're gonna start by adding a little bit of extra virgin olive oil to the pot. We're gonna sweat a couple of yellow onions, low to medium heat, nice and easy. The best part about this soup is it requires about 10 to 15 minutes of technique and work and attention. And we're gonna set it to simmer. You can go ahead and do anything else. All the important steps are right in the beginning. Okay, so it's very important you take the time to let the onions really soften up nicely. You can see they almost start to turn a translucent, like clear color. This is an essential step to building flavor. You're gonna add 1 jalapeno. We have a couple of cloves of garlic, fresh grated ginger. You really want these ingredients to finish cooking before we move on to the next step. Keeping in mind this soup is plant-based. You have to rely on building flavor layers slowly. It smells fantastic. So I'm gonna take 2 teaspoons of curry powder. I'm gonna allow that to toast with the vegetables. It really brings out the flavor. Anytime you toast spices, you're gonna intensify significantly. Next up is some tomato paste. Now this is the last ingredient that it's really, really important you allow it to cook. You wanna caramelize the tomato paste in the pot, being extra careful not to burn. So we have some diced sweet potato and some red lentils. Luckily they cook at a pretty similar timeline, the sweet potato and the lentils. Gonna simmer probably about 35 minutes or so. Once we add these ingredients, we're gonna add some coconut milk and water. So I think the recipe calls for 10 cups of water. I'm gonna add about 3/4 of that and watch it as it goes. Add more as needed. So once we get to this stage, we're essentially gonna bring it up to a nice gentle simmer. You're gonna set it to cook. So while we wait for the soup to simmer, we have a very special guest, Site Director for Rehabilitation, Assistant Professor John Corcoran. John, thanks for joining us.
Jeffrey, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So John, do patients often ask about nutrition and related to their physical rehabilitation?
They do, and a good example of that is in cardiac rehab. We will often have them change many things, and it will be incorporating exercise, just what we've been talking about, but also changing to a more plant-based diet is almost always part of what we're doing. And that, really goes back to the types of things you're doing here with a soup like this, looking for things that have complex carbohydrates and protein, but also reducing some of the other things that may not be safe for someone with cardiac disease.
So I guess in terms of patients, do you see a lot of crossover with nutrition and how, patients that are going through physical rehabilitation?
Exercise and nutrition are strong medicine. Let's say, for example, someone's concerned about their blood sugar. If they're exercising, that actually increases insulin sensitivity. And the types of meals that you're preparing here, the plant-based, people that are worried about the glycemic index of the food, all of that comes together. Talk to your physician, make sure you have a safe foundation. Also, talk to a registered dietitian. We have some excellent ones here, and your rehabilitation team. We can help you to make a very healthy and sustainable exercise program that not only is good for your health physically, but also the evidence shows that it helps mentally too.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming by and sharing this great insight. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. I really love the show, and it's an honor for me to be here with you, Jeffrey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and finish up the soup. Once your lentils and your sweet potatoes are tender, we have some lacinato kale, Tuscan kale, very tender and sweet. We're gonna mix that in gently. This is only gonna cook about 5-10 minutes after that. Finish up with a little salt and pepper, and we are ready to go. We're gonna garnish with some fresh cilantro leaves, and there you have it. Delicious, easy, plant-based, high-protein soup. Thanks for watching another episode of Cooking for Wellness. Please stay tuned for more on our YouTube channel. Stay safe.